going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz, Nxt the YWC Reality Check, here with your preview for NXT Battleground Las Vegas 2024. Lots to talk about in this show, lots to talk about around this show, a lot to dip in and analyze, and honestly, as we go through the matches, a lot going on in this show to take the focus off of what's going on in this show. I've been over it before, but I will say it again. The fact that it is taking place in the UFC Apex building is a double-edged sword, in my opinion. Number one, much as I hate the terminology, it is a buzzword, but the corporate synergy of WWE doing an event in the UFC building, because they're both under TKO and it's kind of cool and whatever. I get it, and it's sort of a, they're over there? That's weird. But the place has a capacity of like 600 to 1,000 people, and they're coming down from 12,000 back at Stand and Deliver. Oi, oi, oi. I said it before when I was on the pod with Jake, and speaking of Jake, hopefully we're going to have him on for the review. If life doesn't kick him in the butt again, send all your good wishes to him at Countdown Ended on X. He might even be able to respond to you one day when X stops fucking with him. But I mentioned with him that because it's got such a small crowd, I hope it's an intimate feeling show instead of a small feeling show, because those are two very, very, very different things. Now, that being said, the pictures that I've seen from the UFC Apex are kind of misleading, because the pictures that I've seen are set up, obviously, for UFC events, and for the little bit that I know of it, the UFC Apex was basically set up to be their version of the Performance Center. So I don't expect it to be that different from, the elevated episodes of weekly television that we see when they do up the Performance Center a little bit different, other than, ooh, neat, it's in a different place. Maybe the screen is on the other wall or something like that. I hope they prove me wrong. I hope there's something massive and impressive about this that I haven't even heard of, that I'm not even thinking of. But double-edged sword. Yes, it's WWE doing stuff in a UFC space. Also, what's it going to do to the size of the crowd and the response of the crowd? Now, apparently, the tickets are expensive, and the waiting list to get on to get these tickets was apparently really ridiculous. So the people that are going to be there on Sunday really want to be there. So volume may suffice for capacity, if that makes any sense at all. I hope that's a thing that we can talk about, but yeah, I don't know. The other thing is, it is in Las Vegas, and we are still sort of in the shadow of the announcement that WrestleMania next year is going to be in Vegas, leading to speculation of, will they do Stand and Deliver oi 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 in the Apex as well? I hope they don't. I hope they go somewhere bigger, because Stand and Deliver oi 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 this year was really big and really awesome, and they got the no screen flex. Same thing with Raw, same thing with SmackDown. So I hope that's not a thing. I hope they maybe do a smaller event in the Apex, just to say, hey, UFC, WWE, shaking hands, because that's what they're doing. But again, with it being in Vegas, I say the same thing about the Sphere. Like, people, oh, we got to do something cool in the Sphere. Yeah, okay, cool. You're not going to do a wrestling show there. Do a panel there. Do I don't know, for example, if they did a TLC panel with the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian, I mean, half of them are still with the other guys, so we can't do that, and people hate when Bubba Ray gets to do anything these days because people are strange. But you could do something like that. You could do a panel with Mick Foley and Undertaker talking about Hell in the Cell, which they've done 100 times. Undertaker could do his one dead man show, isn't that what it's called? In the Sphere. I think that would be really cool. You could set it up so that the outside of it looks like a graveyard, even though it more so looks like a snow globe and all that kind of thing. But I do hope there's a regular sized arena for Stand and Deliver oi 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 next year, when we return to Vegas. I mean, this weekend is going to be the best pay-per-view Vegas has seen probably in months, right? That joke is never going to get old, I'm not going to lie. Also, making a lot of history, we got visitors, we got new people, we got new titles, and we've got more matches than Triple H has typically been putting on a pay-per-view in the recent days, in the Triple H era, in the TKO era, whatever you want to call it. But, as I mentioned to a couple people today, and it took me till today to realize it, which is, doesn't say very much for me. For somebody that has done the NXT Rewind stuff, looking back at the old takeovers from the takeover era, we've literally gone back to the takeover formula. The takeover formula, especially in its early inception, in its early days, as TakeOver was becoming a brand, was however many titles they had. They did one match for each title, and then maybe an exhibition. And that's exactly what we've got tonight. When it was just 3 championships, you had a men's title match, a women's title match, a tag match, and then maybe 2 exhibitions. When you got the North American Championship in there, it was the men's, the women's, the North American, and the tag, and then you maybe had one exhibition. When NXT UK kicked off, they sort of slotted that into the exhibition spot. You had stuff like Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, Pete Dunne, Walter, Tyler Bate, Walter, all that kind of thing. This is literally 5 matches for the 5 NXT championships and 1 extra exhibition, which is NXT Underground in this case. Now, we got people visiting from other companies. We got people visiting from the main roster. We got people debuting. We got a title debuting. We've got 6 matches on the card. We are returning to pretty much a takeover formula. But every match on this card attaches to something outside of NXT, or at least outside of the people that are in that initial match. And for myself, because next month in July, as part of Money in the Bank weekend, I'll be going to Heatwave. A lot of these matches project, or at least I'll be projecting what these matches will mean for me and the Toronto fans next month. So there's a lot of angles to come at this show with. So we'll start off with the first sort of main roster crossover. It's Nathan Frazier and Axiom taking on the OC, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. Now, this is going to be a hell of a match. Nathan Frazier and Axiom are a really fun... They are a thrown-together team, and they've never quite lost their thrown-together team feel. It's kind of the opposite of you know, throw Sheamus and Cesaro together and they became the Bar, and they melded. This was like 2 individual guys that have decided to just be... like, they're not quite in tag team attire. The entrance music is still sort of a mishmash of their 2 entrances. It's not quite an actual team, if that makes sense. Doesn't mean I don't like watching Axiom. Rumors abound, as always, that sooner or later somebody's going to get into a mask versus whatever stipulation with Axiom, and we're going to unmask a kid, which is fine. I don't think him being a masked character, it's... because we saw him before he was a masked character, I don't think it would have the same value as, say, unmasking Rey Mysterio or unmasking Dragon Lee or something like that. But Axiom's really, really fun to watch. Nathan Frazier's really, really fun to watch. And Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson have this cool element of, you know, they're the old guys that have already graduated, but they still hang out outside the high school, which is a terrible and probably problematic way of looking at things. But they come in with this they don't really care attitude, and that will rile up the NXT people. It should rile up the NXT fans, but people like Gallows and Anderson. So, but they should, because of having that attitude, that devil may care, I'll just pick up these belts because they're fun thing, and because they're playing off of this really, really weird, sarcastic, oh my god, you guys let so many main event roster talent just down here and take up all your space. You shouldn't be doing that. Meanwhile, their main roster is fuck. It's a really cool dynamic because I think Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson are going to go in with this like intentionally, sarcastically lazy way of doing things. You're going to see Nathan Frazier and Axiom do a whole lot of really fun flippy-dippy-doo-dahs, as Simon Miller would say, and at one point in the match, you're just going to see Luke Gallows come down, drop a paw on one of them, and swat them right out of the sky. Now, as funny as it would be, and considering one of their other OC members has a match elsewhere on the card, it would be kind of funny to see the OC walking around with NXT tag titles. It's not like the New Day, when the New Day came in and they had sort of a goofy, like, let's have some fun with this, let's be respectful, we're part of the party thing when they had the titles. The OC carrying around the titles would be, in storyline wise, it would be like a black mark. It would be like whoever can get the titles off of them, let's just go ahead and do it type of idea. It'd be like Chase U or somebody like that, but Chase U is having their own problems. I do predict that Nathan Frazier and Axiom are going to retain. I think the OC, as much as they're playing guys that don't give a shit, I think they're going to give these guys a heck of a match. And no matter what your opinion of main event people on NXT cards is, the OC is going to make them look good, especially in that, again, I say that David versus Goliath type of scenario. Obafemi is in a triple threat for his North American Championship against Wesley and Joe Coffey. Now, as I say, things outside of this card, rumor mill heavily indicating that Gallus is going to come up to the main roster the following weekend at Clash at the Castle and be basically hired goons for Drew McIntyre. Now, what does that mean? That means Joe Coffey's probably not picking up the NXT North American Championship. But it also means that Gallus is going to be involved in this match because it's a triple threat match and there's no disqualifications in a triple threat match. So I think when you have a situation with Wesley and Obafemi where neither one of them can really lose, they're booking Obafemi like an absolute beast. Obafemi is one of the quickest hype trains I've jumped on, especially in NXT, in a long time. And Wesley just came back from an injury, and I know I just said it with the tag title match, but the David versus Goliath between Wesley and Obafemi is monstrous, literally. So there's a good one-on-one match down the line, and I think what's going to happen here, Joe Coffey's going to eat the pin in this match because he's going to the main roster. He's going to be with Drew McIntyre, and that's going to be a whole thing. And Drew McIntyre and Gallus, I'm pretty sure, are going to go after CM Punk, and that's going to get us to SummerSlam. But that's me stretching things out a long ass way. With Obafemi and Wesley, both of them are going to have a one-on-one match at some point, which means neither one of them can really afford a loss, which means we need to give one of them a really understandable loss. Now, I'm predicting, once again, if Wesley's going to get his championship back, it needs to be in a one-on-one match. It needs to be in a one-on-one match with no shenanigans, shall we say. So, Obafemi retains. Obafemi pins Joe Coffey, but Wesley is only not able to stop it from happening because Gallus, being the three big guys that they are, and obviously heel as hell, three big guys are going to beat the shit out of the littlest guy in the ring. The little tiny flippy-dippy-doo-dah guy who just came back from massive injury that could have cost him his career. We'll take him out, and then the three of us will be able to take out Obafemi. Oh wait, no, we won't. Joe Coffey's dead anyway. So Joe Coffey eats the pin. It doesn't hurt him. He's going to the main roster soon. Wesley doesn't lose, but he's got a really good excuse for not winning. I think we run this back, and I'll be glad to see it. Like I say, a lot of this is going to be selfish, thinking about Heatwave next month. If we get Joe Coffey out of the equation and Wesley and Obafemi run it back as a straight singles match at Heatwave, that'll be absolutely fine. If they want to put the belt on Wesley as sort of like cementing his return, that'll be great. But make sure you got something for Obafemi to do, because at that point, give it another month or so, are we going to build up Obafemi to be going after the main title? Maybe? I mean, the way people have gravitated to him so quickly, I could see them doing it. I don't think Obafemi drops his championship to Wesley. Obafemi goes for the main title. Whoever he's going after, and yes, we're going to get into that conversation as well. Whoever he's going after, I don't think he's going to win. I think he's going to solidify himself as taking that step up from the mid-card. So, a lot of ramble to say Gallus is going to be involved. Gallus is probably going to kill Wesley. Obafemi is going to kill Joe Coffey, and Wesley is not going to be able to do anything about it because he's going to be dead. Obafemi is going to retain his championship. Joe Coffey is going to go to the main roster. Wesley is going to get the championship possibly as early as next month. And yes, I'm biased because I'm going to be there. Okay. Shayna Baszler versus Lola Vice. Once again, Lola Vice is awesome. Lola Vice won the breakout tournament. I was going for Kalani Jordan at the time. It took me a while to warm up to Lola Vice, not gonna lie. Although I will say that the people out there that are bashing on her because, oh, how am I supposed to believe that she's an ass kicker when she's going out there and just shaking her ass, and, you know, they say some derogatory stuff about her and whatever, and it's like, well, here's how you believe that she can shake her ass and still destroy somebody, because she's going to come out, shake her ass, destroy somebody, shake her ass, and leave. Because you're going to see her do it. That's how you can believe it. On the other side of the coin, you got Shayna Baszler. Now, I do think Carmen Petrovic and Natalia Neidhart are really in a weird spot with all of this, because they became a tag team to take on Lola Vice so that Lola Vice could bring in Shayna Baszler, so that Lola Vice could fight Shayna Baszler, and Natty and Carmen Petrovic are sort of like left out like a rock in the water a little bit on this. Now, Carmen Petrovic's also injured, unfortunately, as we saw this past week on NXT, so wishing her a speedy recovery as well. But what does Natalia do? I mean, there's one rumor that's going around about Natalia that I'm going to get into in a little bit, but it's kind of weird and out of nowhere. I'm not going to lie. What I do like is the fact that this is bringing back NXT Shayna Baszler. You saw the video package, you saw the, for lack of a better term, the road to NXT Underground that they did, and she even capped it off by saying, you know, this Sunday is going to be the return of the Queen of Spades. Because, you know, they went with, when they brought her up to the main roster, they sort of switched it up. They started calling her the Submission Magician, which is fine, but the Queen of Spades was her thing when she had the old music. I would say bring back her old music, but apparently she had a hand in making her new music, and she really likes it, and she's really happy with it. So I'll backpedal on that, but I do think her original NXT music was better. She's just coming out like a badass, like a machine, and not... I mean, WWE doesn't have divas anymore, unless that's the gimmick, like a Tiffany Stratton or an Ariana Grace. But she's like the least diva of anybody in WWE, and it's being exemplified with her being back in NXT. Actually, if they wanted to make this a little bit more permanent and have her do another NXT run, I wouldn't mind it, you know. I really wouldn't mind it. There's somebody else that we're going to talk about in a little bit that I would love to see in a match against Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler also had a very similar match to NXT Underground over WrestleMania weekend when she did Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, and she took on TNA's Masha Slamovich. You know, could we bring all these things together? I don't know. That was a lot of fun. That made me excited for this. That was probably the inspiration for this. Shayna Baszler in NXT Underground, being the one to elevate NXT Underground to a pay-per-view level spectacle, all of that is awesome. Now, what did I just hit on? NXT Underground is now a pay-per-view worthy spectacle. This is the second time they've done this in recent time, coming out of COVID, etc. They did the Iron Survivor, which was a really cool thing to do in the Performance Center, because you just brought out the... You know, you brought out the penalty box, and you just do it because it's something to do. And then they went ahead and proved that you can do that in an arena, and it works as a gimmick, and it's fine. NXT Underground is going to be the same thing. Lola Vice and Shayna Baszler are pretty well the perfect ones to do this with. The one with Natalia was really good. I do feel like, because they've both got the MMA background, this one's going to be a whole lot better. Sounds like I'm dunking on Natalia a lot. I'm really not. It is totally on WWE, who has yet to make me care about Natalia, who is a fantastically talented wrestler and, by all accounts, a really, really good mentor in the back. Ask all the NXT folks on the current NXT roster who else is a really, really good mentor to them these days, and the answer is probably going to piss off a lot of AEW fans. Oh, yes. Here's the thing. We don't know how long Shayna Baszler is going to be hanging around in NXT, or doing double duty, as it were, and also doing the tag stuff with Zoe Stark on the main roster. But I'll take this as an indicator. Lola Vice wins, Shayna Baszler's back to the main roster. Shayna Baszler wins, they do another round at some point, or maybe she has another match that I have already hinted at. Shayna Baszler, I still say this, this has nothing to do with the NXT show whatsoever. I still say, long term, if you book it properly, if you let her rehab to the old original NXT Shayna Baszler, you've still got a blockbuster Big Four worthy match between her and Rhea Ripley in your back pocket. It is what it is. I think it's going to be fantastic. People are saying, oh, because they're in the UFC Apex, they should just use an octagon, and it's like, no, NXT Underground is a thing. We're making it a thing. We're in the UFC building. It's fine. It doesn't have to be the Lion's Den or whatever the fuck else we did back in the day. Now, so I'm gonna say Shayna Baszler wins because on the logic that I just mentioned a second ago, I kind of want Shayna Baszler to hang out in NXT a bit longer because it seems to be doing her some good. Oh yes. Now, Trick Williams is defending his NXT Championship, which we just found out yesterday. Oh, by the way, for timeline purposes, I'm recording this on Wednesday instead of watching Dynamite because it's just a better use of my time. But also, if something else gets announced for the card between now and Sunday, that's why, because I'm recording it on Wednesday and time travel is not a thing. But let's talk about Trick Williams. Let's talk more importantly about the fact that he's taking on all ego Ethan Page. Oh yes. Now, people have come out of the woodwork, like they did for Tama Tonga, like they did for Tonga Loa, like they're going to do for Julia, like they did for Shawn Spears, like they did for, some people even did it for Cody, but now they're coming for Ethan Page. Because he's come to the good side. He's come to the light side. Because much like the dark side, we also have cookies. Oh yes, Ethan Page, Trick Williams. It's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know that they hotshot the title onto Ethan Page. I was fully expecting that another match on this card was going to main event this card and that this match was going to be saved for Heatwave. I'm pretty sure whatever happens in this match, we're getting a rematch at Heatwave because Ethan Page is Canadian, and I'm absolutely fine with that. Have I mentioned that I'm going to Heatwave? Ethan Page taking out Trick Williams 2 weeks ago, shoving him into Lash Legend, causing Trick and Lash Legend to break up for reasons, but also took out Oro Mensah and Noam Dar, but Noam Dar was also one of the ones feuding with Trick Williams, which is fine. It's funny because he was doing a bunch of beatdowns on people in the back, although we didn't know it was him, at the same time as Gallus was taking out everybody in the North American Championship picture. So it's not just the NXT parking lot anymore, or the NXT car park, as some people say, that's the most dangerous place to be in NXT. The most dangerous place to be in NXT is anywhere that's not the ring, but also the ring is where the matches happen, so that's not safe either. You're not safe if you're in NXT whatsoever. I don't know what this looks like, to be perfectly honest with you. I think, like I said, I think you could hotshot it onto Ethan Page. The guy's a hell of a promo. The guy's got a really goofy side, a really intense side. We kind of saw both in AEW, but like a lot of really talented people, AEW didn't really do anything with him. I'm sorry. Look at Athena right now. They've still got her shanked over onto ROH, and don't give her any TV time. That tells you where they're at mentally. I'm not saying Ethan Page is going to turn around NXT and pull out 5-star matches and all of a sudden NXT is going to be the most profitable brand in WWE/TKO. I'm really not. I think he's a really good ring tactician. I think he's got a lot in his back pocket that will help Trick Williams, which is a hell of a thing, which makes me believe ultimately that Trick Williams is going to have a hell of a show-out night on Sunday. Ethan Page is going to lose his shit, maybe attack him afterwards, which leads to a stepped-up rematch, as I say, in Toronto. Did I mention I'm going? I do think Trick Williams retains, but you got to do something immediately with that so that the narrative doesn't just become Ethan Page came to NXT, main evented a pay-per-view, and lost. Very similar situation to how TNA introduced Mustafa Ali. They introduced him in a title match. I think it was Chris Sabin. It was either Chris Sabin or Alex Shelley. I'm going to get that wrong. But it was, excuse me, it was for the X Division Championship. Now, NXT X Division. I'm not making a pun there. but it was the first time that the X Division Championship had main evented a pay-per-view since 2005, I believe. He had the distinction of not only debuting in the main event, not only debuting in a title match, but it being the first time that that title had main evented a pay-per-view in nearly 20 years. That's how you introduce somebody. That's how you say, okay, on day one, we know what this guy is worth. We are telling you, through our booking, through our presentation, what this guy is worth. Do they do that with Ethan Page? I think it would be a hell of a thing if they did. I think if they don't, they gotta do some real fast, like, jingle the keys, look over here stuff to not have it look like he came in and immediately flopped. Somebody else gets involved, there's a run-in, something like that. I do predict this isn't going to be the main event, by the way, so it does allow for a lot of bullshit. Maybe Ethan Page and Sean Spears, you know, they've come from the same place. Hey, I was sick of that place over there too. Let's do some Canadian stuff. I don't know. Sean Spears doesn't have a match on this card. Sean Spears says he's looking for, what did he say? He's looking for weary, lost souls to mentor. He tried to do it with Javon Evans and got his ass handed to him, so that's fine as well. Javon Evans should be on this card. Actually, there we go. I've just done it right there in my head. Javon Evans has a new friendship with Trick Williams. They've got some mutual respect that they have exchanged along with Sexy Red the other week. I don't get the Sexy Red thing. Not gonna lie, I'm sure people are gonna have all fun talking about why that might be in the comment section down below. I don't see you. It's fine. If we have, let me just play this out because this just popped into my head just now. Trick Williams versus Ethan Page. Ethan Page has a secret. He's got Sean Spears in his corner. Javon Evans comes in to help Trick Williams. The title match gets thrown out, which is bullshit, but you can get away with it slightly if it's not in the main event slot. And if you get the brand new tag team of Ethan Page and Sean Spears taking on the champion, who would still be the champion because the match would be thrown out, and Javon Evans, who have already proven that they can be a decent team, that's not a horrible... Like, of all the bullshit endings, that would be... well, it would be an impromptu match, so it would technically be a 7th match on the card. Biggest card WWE's had all year, other than WrestleMania. But it wouldn't be bad. Do I think it's going to happen? No. Do I wish it would? Absolutely. If it actually does happen, come back here and give me a virtual pat on the back in the comment section down below, or hit me up on X at Spaz Phoenix. I think we get some kind of schmoz leading to a stepped-up match next month. I do. I really, really do. Actually, I have to take back something. I said that this was the TakeOver template because they represent all the championships and do one extra exhibition match, which in this case is the Shayna Baszler Lola Vice. But that's not true. It just occurred to me that they are not defending the Heritage Cup at the show. That's a little harder to make work on a pay-per-view. I get that, but Tony D and the family are not going to be on the pay-per-view unless they are. I don't know. Also, Chase U are not on this pay-per-view at all, which for an NXT show that's supposed to show like what we're doing here and what NXT has to offer. It's got the Bright Lights, Big City, Las Vegas platform. We're doing all this crossover with UFC and other places. Weird to me that for this brand we don't have the D'Angelo family or Chase U on here. But what we do have is a brand new Women's Mid-Card Championship, the NXT Women's North American Championship, that's going to be decided in a ladder match the same way the initial Men's North American Championship was. Sol Ruka, Lash Legend, Fallon Henley, Jada Parker, Michin, and Kalani Jordan. Now, of course, we have to talk about the fact that Michin is in this match, and the fact that Michin is in the OC, and the OC have another match on the card. I've seen people suggest that, hey, maybe the OC just has a really good night because they're trying to impress AJ Styles. So if they bring AJ Styles the NXT tag titles and the NXT Women's North American Championship, what does that do for AJ Styles on SmackDown, who's still kind of being I mean, he's not being a dick to Gallows and Anderson anymore, but do we know if he's been a dick to Michin because she's kind of babyface? I don't know. I do, however, like the long-term booking of Mia Yim's history in ladder matches. So, oh, we got a new title, we got a ladder match, Michin comes back to NXT all of a sudden. I will say, on NXT 2 weeks ago when Sexy Red was there and she showed off the North American Championship, it was a big reveal, I guess, but it is just a women's version of the men's title, so it wasn't really a reveal in the strictest of terms. But Tatum Paxley wants the belt. Tatum Paxley wants another belt that we'll talk about in a second. But you got Tatum Paxley and Thea Hale are the two of the women not featured on this card. They're two of the most interesting ones. Thea Hale, love Thea Hale, she's awesome. Tatum Paxley's weird, you know, your buddy Spaz likes weird chicks. If one of these ladies is taken out before the match and replaced by either Tatum Paxley or Thea Hale, I wouldn't be surprised. I still don't think either one of them are winning. Michin isn't winning either. She's got this, like, flourishing feud thing going on with Jada Parker. Jada Parker is going to get a good showing in this match because she's representing OTM, and she's the only one in OTM worth talking about, really. Lash Legend is going to play the distracted card. She's worried about the people in her faction that have been injured, that have been taken out by Ethan Page. She's just had this falling out with Trick Williams. Yes, I know that sounds like a soap opera. It's fine. Kalani Jordan, I imagine, is going to do some wicked acrobatic spots in here. And if Kalani Jordan walked away with the belt, I would be really happy for her, because Kalani Jordan was the one. I mentioned Lola Vice winning the women's breakout tournament. The final was against Kalani Jordan, and at the time, I hadn't really jived with Lola Vice just yet. I was really behind Kalani Jordan. Kalani Jordan had that thing where she was sort of being mentored by Dana Brooke before Dana Brooke got let go. Shout out to Dana Brooke, who is now living her best life in TNA as Ash by Elegance, and not only that, being managed by the Iceman George Menzies, who I met at Destiny. Check it off your Spaz Phoenix bucket list. It's fine. He's a really cool dude, and he's really entertaining. Check them out. Kalani Jordan picking up this title would be really cool. I really do believe that it's going to come down to either Sol Ruca or Fallon Henley. Fallon Henley's just turned heel. She's way underrated. I would have said Kiana James if Kiana James hadn't been called up to the main roster. But Sol Ruca is clearly the babyface of the brand that they're pushing right now. The temptation to attempt a soul snatcher off the top of a ladder is going to be way too much for anybody to resist. Now, how does that go off a ladder? I really don't know. Don't want anybody to get hurt. I do think Michin and Jada Parker take each other out. Kalani Jordan makes a good showing of herself and then falls to the wayside. Lash Legend, if there's going to be a takeout, like for a replacement to be either Thea Hale or Tatum Paxley, I could see Lash Legend being the one that gets taken out backstage before the match even happens, because she's distracted by other stuff storyline-wise, but I don't think they're putting the North American Championship on her. Sol Ruca or Fallon Henley. Hold a gun to my head. I'm going to say Sol Ruca, because I really like her. I enjoy her. She's back from injury as well, so be a good way to solidify her return, to put it on her back that she's the one that has to get this title up off the ground, much like Seth Rollins did with the World Heavyweight Championship on Raw. Would be a real shot in the arm for her. Only reason I would say maybe Fallon Henley is because she turned heel and kind of went dickhead on everybody. The group, her and Briggs and Jensen, all split up and then all became heels. So I kind of makes me think, why didn't they all just get back together and say, oh, okay, we split up and all decided to be assholes. Why don't we be friends again? It really does something like... She's done the whole, oh, I'm not going to have any more friends, I'm not going to have any more tag team partners, nobody else is going to be weighing me down, I'm just going to be a bitch, blah, 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 blah. You can say all that, but then you go for the big thing and you don't win it, and then the whole heel turn kind of falls flat. So that is a concern, but Sol Ruca is fucking amazing. And the other rumor is that making her debut in Toronto at Heatwave, and did I mention I'll be there, is Julia, who I've never seen. I'm going out of my way not to see, so that she can still be new to me when she comes to NXT. A lot of people have assumed that she's going to be going and targeting Roxanne Perez right away. I would say have her stare down Sol Ruca after the match and say, hey, you know, everybody knows that I'm here. You know, you showed me in the crowd at Stand and Deliver, oi, oi, oi. Not 100% yet. You know, she's got her issues with her wrist or hand or something like that. But I will be in a month. See you in Toronto. Awesome. Good new victory on new championship, on new story, on headline is how you build on that. Fallon Henley or Sol Ruca. I'm going Sol Ruca. Yeah. And as I say, if Thea Hale or Tatum Paxley get thrown into the mix, then who knows? Thea Hale should win something at some point. Let's talk about what everybody's talking about. Let's talk about what everybody's talking about. Nathan Frazier and Axiom versus the OC. You got two guys from the main roster. Trick Williams versus Ethan Page. You got Ethan Page, who just came from ECW. You got Shayna Baszler versus Lola Vice. NXT Underground is being done on a pay-per-view. Shayna Baszler has come back down from the main roster. Shayna Baszler is sort of reinventing herself as her old self. Obafemi, Wesley, Joe Coffey, all of that centers around the North American Championship, but it more so centers around the rumors that Joe Coffey and Gallus are going to the main roster. We have a brand new championship being decided among 6 women who are all awesome. It's a brand new championship. You've also got Mia Yim coming in from the main roster. But none of those stories, none of those matches that all have external things going on or external bits of the story that don't necessarily have to do with the bodies in the ring. Nothing hits that on the head more than NXT Women's Champion, Roxanne Perez, taking on and defending her title against TNA Knockouts champion Jordynne Grace. I'm going to try and talk about the match because the big downside of all of this, or I shouldn't say downside, but it's sort of unfair to the ladies involved, is as soon as Jordynne Grace walked out on stage on NXT and stared down Roxanne Perez, which apparently she didn't know about, which is awesome. But as soon as she did, all the talk became, oh my god, WWE is working with TNA. Oh my god, who else could come in? Oh my god, WWE wouldn't give one of their titles to a TNA star, would they? TNA wouldn't, lend out a couple more of their stars, would they? What else is this going to mean? What is this crossover going to look like? All this external stuff, which is awesome. Those of you that have been listening to me for a long time know that I've been pulling for this for a long time. I've been pulling for this since Mickie James showed up in the Rumble. I've been pulling for this since Jordynne Grace showed up in the Rumble. I've been saying quietly since they did the Christian Cage Ric Flair exchange when they featured on each other's shows. One came for a tribute show and one came for a, I don't know, what was it, like a Hall of Fame thing. I've been saying forever, if WWE is going to work with somebody, let it be TNA, because it'll be awesome. And let it be TNA and NXT, because they sort of exist on that same level of, even people that watch WWE, not everybody watches NXT. And if you're watching mainstream wrestling, yeah, you watch AEW, you watch WWE, TNA's kind of over there. TNA's kind of over there, and NXT's kind of over there. So these two sort of smaller brands that are, and yes, I know I'm saying smaller. I know NXT is part of WWE and TKO. I get it. NXT as a show is the smaller brand in WWE. TNA is the company that just won't die. And I say that in the most positive way possible. The entire TNA and WWE colliding story has taken over so much of the headline that what's getting lost in the headline, what's getting lost just under the 2 sets of initials, just under those 2 different belts, is the fact that we're going to get a really fucking awesome match between Roxanne Perez and Jordynne Grace. Now, recall, and as I said in a previous pod, the very first time I ever saw Roxanne Perez, when she was Roxy, she was in a match for the ROH Women's Championship against Deonna Purrazzo on Impact. Now, where are we with that now? Deonna Purrazzo is in AEW. ROH as a whole is in AEW. Roxy is now Roxanne Perez in NXT, defending that championship against Jordynne Grace, who is the champion of Impact. Full circle thing, especially for me. I think that's really, really cool. But the match itself Roxanne Perez is awesome. Roxanne Perez could have gotten called up in the draft. Could have gotten called up in the draft last year. Could have gotten called up in the draft the year before. Could have signed with WWE and gone right to the main roster, but she's been just kicking ass in NXT instead, which is absolutely fine. Jordynne Grace is a fucking monster and out-wrestles men on TNA. Now, I don't know whether they're going to mention that as part of a WWE production, but even still, it would be like, in WWE terms, it would be like Katana Chance taking on Rhea Ripley. It really, really would. It would be like Katana Chance taking on Rhea Bloody Ripley. Now, Jordynne Grace, now as I say, we're already pulling away from the match. I would love Jordynne Grace to take on Shayna Baszler next, which is one main reason why I would love Shayna Baszler to stay in NXT a little bit longer. Jordynne Grace, ultimately, ever since the Rumble and even before the Rumble, I want to see Rhea Ripley versus Jordynne Grace. I think that match would be fucking fantastic. Pure powerhouse match, pure whatever the female equivalent of a big meaty men slapping man meat match. But the bigger question isn't so much, is Roxanne Perez going to beat Jordynne Grace? Is Jordynne Grace going to beat Roxanne Perez? Is WWE going to put one of their championships, even the NXT championship, on a TNA star? Now, they have a pay-per-view 5 days later, next Friday, against all odds. Could they do it where she holds that title for 5 days and it goes back to Roxanne Perez because she goes to Against All Odds and features on a TNA show? Sure. Could she just beat her? Sure. Tatum Paxley was looking at her title. Does Tatum Paxley go to Against All Odds? People have speculated, and I've seen the graphics out there, that they want to see Jordynne Grace defend the TNA championship against Natalya at Slammiversary, which I think would be amazing. I think TNA, if they got somebody like Natalya, a talent like Natalya, from a family like Natalya, they would treat Natalya like $1 million. Do I think they would give her the TNA championship? Absolutely not. Do I think that if Roxanne Perez wins on Sunday, does she pull the, hey TNA, I just beat your champion in a match that wasn't for her title, now I get a shot at her title on your show? All kinds of cool shit could come out of this, and all kinds of like, oh, what does this mean for the company? What does this mean for the brand? What does this mean for the show? What does this mean for the belt? All of that is awesome. I just think getting lost in the shuffle, put those initials over there, put those initials over there, put the belts on the shelf for a second. You've got two amazing wrestlers. They're going to have an amazing, again, much like the men's North American Championship, much like the Tag Team Championship, it is another in a long line of David versus Goliath matches that make up this particular fight card. It's the laziest take in wrestling, especially when I'm coming up here to give you guys a preview / prediction podcast. It is the laziest take in the world, but my God, I don't care who wins. Because like I say, Jordynne Grace holding up the NXT champion, you know, Jordynne Grace to call it, would be awesome. Would be really, really cool to see. It's one thing to show a TNA star on a WWE show, because that, obviously, it's a different platform, it helps them, and whatever the case may be. To feature a WWE championship on another show. Now, you can go back through your history. It's definitely happened, but not much, and not anything we thought we would see anytime soon. It is very much an indicator of the Triple H era, the Nick Khan era, the TKO era. I wonder if The Rock has anything to do with it, since his daughter is the quote-unquote GM of NXT. I'm doing the wiggly fingers. You can't see it because it's an audio platform. I really want this to be the main event. I think for so many... Any champion versus champion match should main event a show. The potential that comes out of this one match is huge. And there has been a long-standing rumor that there's going to be a huge announcement made at this show on Sunday. Now, one of two things. It could be an NXT announcement that's been rumored for a couple of years, that they're actually going to take the NXT brand on the road week to week. I don't think that's it. the bigger pie in the sky thing for me as far as this crossover goes is, do we get a proper Worlds Collide crossover pay-per-view between TNA and NXT? And does everybody walk around for one night with the shirts like Jordan Grace had on this past week on NXT with the NXTNA logo on them? I think all of it's a lot of fun. A lot of it's cool to speculate. If we get a crossover show, that's awesome. If it's just an NXT announcement and it's the fact that NXT is actually going out on the road, that's interesting in a whole nother level, and that's a whole other conversation for us to have. But losing my voice, and I don't have very much else to say other than just rambling and repeating what I've already said. So, tell me what you think about Battleground. What do you think about it being in the Apex? What do you think about the crossover? What do you think about Ethan Page joining NXT? What do you think about all of the superstars that have come down from the main roster for this show? Is there going to be any influence from UFC on this? Are we going to see Dana White, for example? I don't know anything about UFC. Somebody tell me something about the UFC down in the comment section below, or hit me up on X at Spaz Phoenix. I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I am tagging out. Bye, guys.